Welcome back to Coatings Talk, where the protective coatings and corrosion communities come together to learn, grow, and strengthen the critical infrastructure that keeps our world running. Whether you're tuning in from a water treatment plant, a refinery, a blast and paint shop, or your home, I'm glad that you're here. This space is built for those looking to learn about coatings and corrosion, as well as the professionals who care about doing things the right way. People who understand that the war on corrosion isn't just a technical discipline, it's a responsibility to public safety, environmental stewardship, and long term infrastructure protection and asset performance. Today, we're discussing one of the most underestimated and costly threats to both the protective coatings and corrosion industries: microbiologically influenced corrosion, or MIC. And to set the stage, consider this. Studies have shown that MIC may be responsible for up to 40% of all corrosion related failures in industrial and municipal infrastructure. It's not a niche problem. That's a silent, pervasive force affecting not only pipelines, but storage tanks, wastewater systems, and any environment where microbes, moisture, and metal intersect. When you realize that a single MIC driven failure can shut down operations, can contaminate commodities, or compromise public health, the scale of the challenge becomes impossible to ignore. In this broadcast, we're going to unpack why MIC is so aggressive and why it's often misdiagnosed, and how coatings, inspection practices, and field level awareness can dramatically reduce risk. If you ever wondered why a perfectly applied coating system still failed prematurely, or why certain assets seem to corrode from the inside out, this stream is going to connect those dots. So settle in, get ready to engage, and let's explore one of the most important and misunderstood corrosion mechanisms that's impacting critical infrastructure today. Now, before I get started, I want to take a moment to express my deep appreciation to both Dr. Reza and Dr. Arazu Asarian for their tremendous impact that they've had on my understanding of MIC, and also microbiologically influenced deterioration, or MID. Their willingness to share decades of research, field expertise, and scientific insight has shaped the way I approach MIC and MID in both technical education and real world problem solving. When you learn from people who are dedicated their whole careers to unraveling the complexities of microbiologically activity, corrosion kinetics, and deterioration pathways, it really elevates your entire perspectives on asset integrity. So both Dr. Reza and Dr. Asarian have a rare gift. They make an incredible, complex subject accessible without ever losing the scientific rigor behind it. Their mentorship of me has helped how I communicate MICs and MIDS mechanisms, their risk and mitigation strategies to the broader coatings and corrosion communities. The clarity and depth that they bring to this topic have strengthened my ability to educate others, and I'm genuinely grateful for the time, knowledge, and generosity that they've shared. Their contributions contribute to ripple outward throughout every conversation, every training session, and even every live stream like this one. This broadcast is brought to you by Apelix Spray Painting Drones. They're the leaders in robotic spray painting technology for industrial coatings. If you're an industrial painting contractor or an asset owner looking to boost productivity, improve safety, and deliver more consistent coating results on vertical structures, it's time to take a serious look at spray painting drones from Apelix. These aren't consumer drones. They're purpose-built, engineered industrial drones that solve real field-level challenges, and they also support your bottom line, as well as providing you additional revenue and profits with the use of drones. Apelix spray painting drones allow your crew to apply liquid coatings to elevated, hard-to-reach surfaces without ever stepping onto scaffolding or lifts. And this means fewer safety risks, fewer delays, and dramatically lower setup costs. And because the drone maintains a precise standoff distance and travel speed, you get uniform film builds, reduce overspray, and repeatability. And that quality is with every pass. Imagine completing a tank exterior, a stack, or a tall structure in a fraction of the time with a smaller focused crew safely on the ground, managing the operations. Now, that's the power of Appellix. It's not replacing painters, it's augmenting your production, giving your team a smarter, safer, more efficient way to work. So, if you want to improve your margins, we can show you how, as an innovator, and also how you can deliver high quality results with smaller labor demands. Appellix spray painting drones are the competitive edge that you've been waiting for. All you need to do is email me at jim@procoattech. That's jim@procoattech.com to learn more about the Appellix drone solutions and discover how drone applied coatings can transform your next project. So the big question everyone has is what MIC actually is. Microbiologically influenced corrosion, MIC, is one of those topics that sounds complicated until you break it down to what's really happening at the surface level. MIC isn't microbes eating metal, and it isn't a special category of corrosion that sits outside of the fundamentals we already know. Instead, MIC is corrosion that's accelerated or driven by the presence and activity of microorganisms. These microbes create chemical conditions, acids, sulfides, different aeration cells, and localized electrochemical imbalances that attack metal surfaces and also undermine protective coatings. In other words, the organisms aren't the corrosion mechanisms themselves. They're the catalyst that makes traditional corrosion mechanisms far more aggressive. The key players in MIC are groups of microorganisms that thrive in moisture, in the low oxygen zones, stagnant water, and areas where deposits accumulate. Sulfate reducing bacteria, iron oxidizing bacteria, acid producing bacteria, and various biofilm forming organisms. They all contribute to the problem in different ways. And what makes MIC especially challenging for technicians is that these microbes form biofilms, which are thin. They're often invisible layers that trap corrosive byproducts against the metal surface. Under those films, corrosion can progress rapidly and silently, often showing up as deep pitting or unexpected coating failures. Understanding MIC starts with recognizing that whatever or wherever water, nutrients, and metal come together, that microbes can create a microenvironment that accelerates deterioration far beyond what traditional corrosion models predict. So, where MIC shows up in the real world. MIC shows up in places where most technicians don't expect it, and that's part of what makes it so dangerous. Anywhere you have water, nutrients, metal, and low oxygen pockets, you have the potential for microbiological activity to take hold. Wastewater systems are one of the most common environments for MIC. Lift stations, clarifiers, headworks, and force mains all create perfect conditions for microbe colonies to thrive. Pipelines, especially those with low flow or intermittent service, are another hotspot. Stagnant water, sediment buildup, and temperature variations allow biofilms to form and to create corrosive microenvironments that traditional corrosion models simply don't predict. And you also see MIC in above ground and underground storage tanks, cooling water systems, fire water loops, marine structures, and even inside coated assets where it's assumed they're going to be protected. Now, technicians often encounter MIC in phases where corrosion shouldn't be happening and under deposits, beneath blistered coatings, or in areas that look clean on the surface but hide microbe activity underneath. Field indicators can include black slime, unexpected pitting, rapid underfilm corrosion, or failures that seem to come out of nowhere. The reality is that MIC doesn't need extreme conditions to cause damage. It only needs small, sheltered microenvironment to really start a chain reaction that can compromise an entire asset. Understanding where MIC hides is the first step in catching it before it becomes a costly failure. So, how MIC damages coating systems? MIC damages coating systems in ways that often catch technicians off guard. because the deterioration doesn't always look biological at first. The process usually begins with a biofilm formation, which is a thin, sticky layer of microorganisms that attach to the coating surface. Once the biofilm establishes itself, it creates a microenvironment that traps moisture, nutrients, and corrosive byproducts right against the coating system. Inside that film, microbes generate acids, sulfides, and other metabolites that attack both the coating and the underlying metal. What looks like discoloration or small blisters on the surface may actually be the visible tip of a highly active corrosion cell fueled by microbiologically activity beneath the film. As the biofilm matures, it disrupts the protective functions of the coating. Microbial colonies can create different aeration cells where oxygen levels vary drastically across tiny distances. And these oxygen gradients accelerate localized corrosion, which often results in deep pitting directly under the coating. In some cases, the organisms produce sulfide reducing or acid producing bacteria, and that can chemically degrade the coating resin itself, which weakens adhesion, and that allows underfilm corrosion to spread rapidly. The result is a failure pattern that looks like a premature coating breakdown, blistering, undercutting, or delamination. But the true driver is the microbiological ecosystem that's hidden beneath the surface. Understanding these mechanisms help technicians recognize that MIC isn't just a corrosion problem. It's also a coatings performance problem that requires early detection and proactive mitigation. So, what are some of the inspection techniques that every technician should know? When it comes to identifying MIC in the field, technicians don't need to be microbiologists. They need to know what to look for and how to document it. The first and most important inspection technique is a visual assessment, but mindset tuned into MIC indicators. And this means you really need to pay attention to black or slimy films, unusual deposits, rapid pitting, or coating blisters that seem out of proportion to the surrounding environment. MIC often hides beneath layers of sediment or biofilm. So part of the inspection process is really gently removing deposits to see what's happening underneath. If you do uncover sharp edge pits, black corrosion products, or localized underfilm attack, those are very strong clues that the microbe activity is involved. Beyond visual cues, technicians should be familiar with basic sampling and measurement techniques that can help confirm or rule out MIC. Swab sampling of surfaces, water sampling from low flow areas, and sludge collection from tank bottoms or pipeline drains can all be sent for microbial analysis when needed. Ultrasonic thickness readings and pit depth measurements are also essential because MIC tends to create deep, aggressive pits rather than uniform thinning. Even if you're not performing the lab work yourself, knowing where and when to do the testing is a critical part of the inspection role. The goal isn't to diagnose MIC on the spot, it's to recognize the red flags early, gather the right information, and ensure the asset owner gets a clear, accurate picture of what's really happening before the damage becomes catastrophic. Next, I'm really excited about this announcement. But before I jump into the next segment, I want to take a moment to highlight something special for our Coatings Talk community. Our friends over at 5 and Rising have officially launched a new collection featuring 2 exclusive Pro Coat Tech wearables, the Fit for Purpose hoodie and the Fit for Purpose t-shirt. These pieces were designed with the same mindset we bring to our industry: purpose-driven, durable, and built for people who take pride in their craft. Whether you're in the field or in the shop or representing the coatings and corrosion world at a social gathering, these wearables let you carry that message with you. And here's the part you want to act quickly on. The first 25 people who place an order and use the discount code Coatings Talk, that's Coatings Talk, one word, will receive 15% off their first purchase. After those first 25 are gone, the discount for the first-time buyers will shift to 10%, which is still a great deal. But there is one important step. The discount is only available to those who sign up for the 5 and Rising email list. It's quick, it's simple, and it unlocks your savings. So if you want to grab the hoodie, the t-shirt, or both, now's the perfect time to jump in and support a brand that supports this community. Let's talk about prevention and mitigation strategies. Preventing mix starts with understanding that you're not just fighting corrosion, you're fighting the conditions that allow microbe communities to thrive. The first line of defense is always a properly selected and properly applied coating system. High build epoxies, Novolac linings, and chemically resistant barrier systems can dramatically slow microbial activity by eliminating the microenvironments where biofilms form. But even the best coating will fail if surface preparation is rushed or environmental controls are ignored. MIC loves rough, contaminated, or poorly cured surfaces because they give microbes a foothold. That's why technicians must treat surface prep, cleanliness, and cure verification as non-negotiable steps in any MIC-prone environment. Beyond coatings prevention requires controlling the environment that microbes depend on. Flow management is a major factor. Stagnant or low velocity areas are hotspots for biofilm formation. Regular deposit removals, whether through pigging, flushing, or mechanical cleaning, helps eliminate the nutrient beds that fuel microbial growth. In some systems, asset owners may use biocides or other chemical treatments to reduce microbial populations, which I'm against. Let me say that again. I'm against this. We need a natural, environmentally safe means of mitigation, but technicians should understand that these really are part of a broader strategy and not a standalone fix. You need to recognize the MIC indicators early. You need to document them clearly, and you got to communicate them effectively. They give the asset owners a chance to really intervene before the damage becomes severe. Prevention isn't one big action. It's about a disciplined combination of coating quality, environmental control, and proactive inspection. So here's some technician takeaways. At the end of the day, the most important takeaway for technicians is that MIC is far more common and far more aggressive than most people realize. It doesn't require extreme conditions or exotic environments. It only needs, again, moisture, nutrients, and a sheltered microenvironment to begin. And this accelerates corrosion at a rate that can surprise even seasoned professionals. When technicians understand that MIC can hide under deposits, behind blisters, or inside stagnant systems, they start to see the early warning signs that others may overlook. And that awareness alone can prevent costly failures and protect critical infrastructure. Another key takeaway is that technicians are really the frontline defense against MIC. You're the ones who see the assets every day, and you notice the subtle changes. Now, if you understand when something doesn't look right, early detection combined with good documentation, visuals, clear communication, that's going to give those asset owners the chance to intervene before severe damage can occur. And remember that coatings are powerful tools, but they're only part of the solution. MIC prevention is a team effort that blends coating quality, environmental control, deposit management, and ongoing inspection. And when technicians bring this knowledge, vigilance, and also curiosity to the field, they become one of the most valuable assets in the fight against MIC. So here are my final thoughts. As we wrap up this broadcast on microbiologically influenced corrosion, or MIC, I want to acknowledge the technicians, the inspectors, the applicators, and asset professionals who show up each and every day to protect the infrastructure that keeps our communities running. As I mentioned earlier, MIC is a very complex challenge, but it's one we can manage when we combine knowledge, being vigilant, and also being disciplined related to field practices. The more we understand how microbes influence corrosion, the better equipped we are to prevent failures, to extend asset life cycles, and deliver the kind of reliability that industries and the public demand. Your commitment to learning and staying sharp is what elevates the entire coatings and corrosion community. So I'd like to say thank you for spending the time with me here on Coatings Talk Livestream and for being part of a global audience that values technical excellence and continuous learning. If today's conversation sparked questions, insights, or ideas on future topics, I encourage you to share them because this platform grows stronger through your engagement. Stay curious, stay observant, and also stay committed to your craft. And I really look forward to seeing you on the next live stream as we continue exploring the science, the challenges, and the innovation shaping the world of protective coatings and corrosion controls. Thank you very much.